On this episode of Cape Media News, Shark Talk in Wellfleet, nurse-patient limits on the ballot this November. We talk with Cape Cod healthcare nurses and administration. 18 Harwich homeowners get the big fix from the Housing Assistance Corporation, and the Wings of Freedom Tour makes a stop at Barnstable Municipal Airport. These stories and more. This is Cape Media News. This is Cape Media News, your local authentic newscast for Cape Cod. I'm Sarah Colvin. A week and a half after a shark bite claimed the life of a young man from Revere, hundreds gathered in Wellfleet to discuss the future of sharks in our waters.
If we swim in our ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, anywhere up and down the East Coast, there is always a chance that you're going to have an interaction with a shark. So we want to tell you or educate you as much as possible on what you can do to avoid that. And it's not always going to be foolproof.
A year of my life at Newcomb Hollow, and most of the time there were no lifeguards. And I swam not just in the summer season, I swam after school when it got cooler, and the person that watched out for me was my mother. And the thing that hasn't been brought up here is this is a community effort to look at the water, not space out, and pay the kind of attention that our species and a lot of other species have been paying for hundreds of thousands of years. If we think there's a predator out there, if we think there's going to be danger, maybe just a riptide, not a predator, we have to be aware of it.
I am a swimmer, and for the last few years I've changed my swimming habits in the ocean, which I have swum in my entire life here, on and off season. And I don't go as deep. I look at what's going on and ask people if they've seen any sharks when I come down onto the beach, when I'm on the dune. And I've changed my swimming behavior.
There's so much we don't know about pinnipeds, sharks, our interactions with humans. We have a population that's just recently rebounding from being extinct, pretty much, extirpated from this region. So there's a lot of issues and a lot of conflict and a lot of problems. So we know that. The way that we can go forward is to get the science that we do know, provide that to managers, to towns, provide solutions, do education, do outreach, minimize our interactions with these animals that could be detrimental, and just talk to one another and have these forums where we're not just talking over each other, but listening to each other and figuring out what the best solution forward is.
And I may be the person that's at your meeting tonight, but I can assure you, I am speaking on behalf of the entire delegation. We speak as one voice, representatives and senators, Democrats and Republicans. It doesn't matter. We are united on this, and we are going, by God, to give you our best in these efforts. Thank you.
We'll have full coverage of that meeting on next week's edition of Cape Media News. The Yarmouth Police Department is working to strengthen training for its officers. A capital campaign is now underway for construction of a new state-of-the-art training facility at YPD headquarters to be named in honor of fallen Police Sergeant Sean Gannon. Gabrielle Rawson reports.
From unspeakable tragedy to state-of-the-art training, the Yarmouth Police Foundation launched Stronger Shield, a capital campaign to complete the training complex they say will better protect officers in the field.
We just had an officer murdered. We had a police dog nearly killed, and we're not going to let that happen again.
The Sergeant Sean M. Gannon K-9 Police Officer Training Facility will have an interactive training simulator, a next-generation K-9 and police officer obstacle course, and an enclosed gun range for practice. Things the department believes will help facilitate the ongoing training they need to keep themselves and the community safe.
I don't know how, but somehow police training has been left behind. We train with what we got and stretch it as far as we can, but it's not enough. It's immense what type of variety of training there is that is needed, and people expect that we know all this stuff. Sometimes, the training you get is what you got in the academy on a specific subject. If you don't follow that up 5, 10, 15 years later, those skills diminish, or you forget, and things change.
You have all these weapons, you know. I weigh 22 extra pounds when I work. I have body armor, I have a handgun, I have a taser, I have OC spray, I have a rifle, I have a shotgun. So how do you expect us to make proper decisions when we're getting yelled and screamed at, or it's 3 in the morning and we can't see because it's dark, or it's raining, or someone is threatening to kill you? You need to have training, and it has to be constant, and it has to be professional, and it has to be challenging.
The Yarmouth Police Foundation is selling stuffed Hero for Nero pups. 100% of the proceeds will go directly to support the training facility.
To see the level of support that a project like this has generated is something certainly to be applauded. It would be nice to get to the point where we don't need to worry about funding and facilities and resources for training anymore. The police chiefs on the Cape, including Chief Frederickson and the Deputy Chief, Exaros, they have been very effective advocates, I think, in making the case at the state level and the federal level of the importance of doing this kind of work. So I think we're just going to continue to stick together, fight together, and to make sure that the people that serve us in the community that put their lives on the line, day in, day out, that they get that kind of support that they need.
A private donation of $300,000 has helped boost the campaign, and construction is now underway.
When Sean was murdered and that cruiser sat out there and people came with flowers and they were crying, and they were white, and they were black, and they were Asian, and they were rich, and they were poor, and many of them were criminals that I knew, and they were all sorry, because we all want the same thing. We want to live safe, we want to live free.
This will add consistency to our training. When you engage someone, when they're confident in what they're doing and their skills and abilities, that's a positive thing. They're going to make better decisions. There's going to be less chance of mistakes, which is what we all aim for. As a result, everybody's better off.
You can visit the Yarmouth Police Department's Facebook page to learn more. For Cape Media News, I'm Gabrielle Rawson.
And that facility will be the first of its kind on Cape Cod, enabling law enforcement officers and K-9 teams to train in realistic environments in a dedicated and secure area behind headquarters.
I've been working on this question for 20 years.
This ballot initiative that has been proposed by the M&A doesn't check any of the boxes that are necessary to say this is what we should do.
We are there to comfort you and to be the quarterback for the entire healthcare team.
Up next, the battle over question 1.
Let me tell you about the toughest guy on earth. He has the crazy strength to lift the man that raised him up without even flinching. This guy, this warrior, will always be by his father's side, even if his dad will hardly remember. If this guy isn't the toughest guy on the planet, then I don't know who is. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
We're back with more Cape Media News. Question 1 on the ballot this November would place a limit on the number of patients a single nurse can be assigned at a time. If passed, the ballot initiative would also impose a $25,000 fine on hospitals that violate those ratios. The Massachusetts Nursing Association is saying that patient limits are necessary for quality patient care and safety. But administrators are pushing back, saying the unfunded mandate would cost millions of dollars and negatively impact operations. Here on Cape Cod, we talked with Cape Cod Healthcare CEO Michael Loff and visited an M&A standout held this Tuesday in front of the hospital.
First of all, what the general public needs to understand is we greatly appreciate what nurses do, right? Who doesn't like a nurse? They provide incredible care, and they do that in concert with physicians and other technical support staff. Healthcare is the consummate team sport. We're all in it together. And nurses are certainly at the front line of the care that we try to provide, the exceptional care we try to provide each and every day.
But for nearly 2 decades, the Massachusetts Nurses Association has been working on a ballot initiative that, if passed, would change nurse-to-patient ratios. Nurses in support of the question gathered outside Cape Cod Hospital on Tuesday afternoon.
For 18 years, I've worked in the medical surgical floor where, like all the other units in the hospital, There is no limit on the number of patients assigned to a nurse at one time. While the best medical research and my own experience shows that a medical surgical nurse should never have more than 4 patients at one time, I was nearly always assigned 5.
I've been working on this question for 20 years. 20 years ago, we established that the patients needed some changes, they needed some help. So we have been working on this for 20 years, and now we're going straight to the public.
The proposed legislation would put strict nurse-to-patient limits in place and impose large fines on hospitals who fail to meet the mandated minimum. Cape Cod Healthcare CEO Michael Loff is concerned about the impact this bill would have if passed.
The real question is, what's the right number of nurses to take care of patients? And unfortunately, the position, this ballot initiative that has been proposed by the M&A, doesn't check any of the boxes that are necessary to say this is what we should do. Unfunded mandates simply don't work. The fact is, governmentally regulating how many nurses should take care of patients isn't appropriate. There's not a single study out there that says quality patient care is a direct result of having more nurses.
The nurses disagree.
I came into nursing to provide high-quality, compassionate care. Every nurse in this hospital wants to provide that level of care. Right now, we can't, because this hospital is more concerned with paying its top executives multi-million-dollar salaries with the accumulating huge profits than with investing their resources where it matters the most, in your care and your safety.
Cape Cod Healthcare's CEO says the issue of staffing should be handled locally and that passage would seriously impact the hospital's ability to care for patients.
What we'd like to do is change the conversation. Let's not pass a mandate that was pulled out of the sky by union leaders in Boston. Let's work locally to truly determine with our nurses, with our physicians, with our community, what's the best number of nurses to care for each and every patient. The fact of the matter is, if this ballot initiative passes, if people say yes, it will mean services, it will mean clinical programs, it will mean beds closing on the Cape, right here at Cape Cod Healthcare, because we simply won't have enough nurses to cover it.
But some nurses argue that the hospital's budget is big enough to accommodate more staff.
They can afford this. If they shift the budget, take 3% off the top of their managers and the management and the CEOs make a lot of money. Take a little bit of that, 3% can go into hiring more labor. Hire some nurses full-time.
Take our word for it or take the word from people in Boston. That's not how care should be delivered on the Cape. We know what we're doing. We know what we do as a healthcare team, and we need to focus on that.
Voters decide on November 6th. A yes vote on question 1 would enact those new nurse-to-patient limits. A no vote would make no change to the current system. For Cape Media News, I'm Sarah Colvin. This is one of 3 questions on the November ballot. Voters head to the polls on Tuesday, November 6th.
I just cannot believe what they've done in such a short period of time.
I can see across my yard.
Never ever expected everything they've done.
Up next, homeowners get help thanks to the Housing Assistance Corporation's Big Fix.
Na 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 na, I love you so. I love you, I love you. La 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 la, la 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 la.
We're here.
Yay!
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
This is Cape Media News, your local authentic newscast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, I had the privilege of spending last Saturday morning in Harwich visiting homes that were getting the Big Fix treatment from the Housing Assistance Corporation. Let's head out now and check it out.
What's going on today is unbelievably overwhelming.
And look around, well, I got a yard now.
This would have taken me another 40 years. to get done. So I'm extremely happy and grateful.
350 volunteers descended on 18 homes in Harwich on Saturday, September 22nd. It was the Housing Assistance Corporation's 9th annual Big Fix. This once-a-year event shows the true power of community.
The Big Fix is an amazing culmination and demonstration of our mission in action. We raise awareness about who we are and what we do. We raise funds for the important work of our mission, and we as a community come together and help our community members. We have dedicated volunteers that have come every year. This is our 9th year. We have some that have come every single year and won't miss it.
About 20 volunteers per site spent the morning working hard to make much-needed improvements.
We are trimming leaves, getting rid of bushes, taking down trees to make the yard a much more livable space for this couple.
Part of their requirements for graduating or going through the confirmation class is public service. Instead of classroom and learning, we like to have them go out into the community and help people. Just about anything that needs to be done, these kids are willing to do it.
We have 21 volunteers, and without them, we couldn't be doing what we're doing.
We've gotten an awful lot done. A lot of brush has been cleared, gutters cleaned, cellar cleaned out.
And the homeowners couldn't be happier with the new look of their homes.
I just cannot believe what they've done in such a short period of time. Clean out the cellar, clean out the backyard, clean out the side yards, clean out the driveway. It's just unbelievable. And they were all cooperative. And when they cleaned out my bathroom, that's a miracle how they did that so quickly.
I've been handicapped for a while now, and my husband is handicapped, so neither of us could do the physical labor. And this is just truly stunning and amazing. I can see across my yard.
All we basically wanted was just a couple of things, like remove some brush, maybe do the trim on the driveway side.
Never ever expected everything they've done.
They went way beyond all of that. There's a new bay window in the kitchen. They replaced the fuse box downstairs with a breaker box. They did all the trim. They replaced a fence in the back. They power washed the roof, cleaned the gutters. They removed all the brush in the backyard and more.
And like many Big Fix recipients, the Macs will be back next year to help out.
And so many of these volunteers were formerly recipients, just like we are. So we're going to reciprocate as best we can.
This year, a new fundraising drive was added to the event, raising money to help the Housing Assistance Corporation's year-long programming.
Helping 18 homeowners in Harwich, which is just enormous, and it's an incredible day. But the fundraising efforts really allow us to continue to do our work. We're so proud to say that we raised over $45,000. Turning it into a fundraiser, a fix-a-thon, if you will, is really modeling similar to a walk-a-thon, right? It allows people to fundraise for a period of time with all those efforts culminating in the community service activity, with the fundraising efforts allowing us to do our important work and programs and services that we do across the Cape.
The Big Fix will continue to help homeowners tackle their to-do lists. Next year's event will be held in the town of Barnstable. For Cape Media News, I'm Sarah Colvin. The Housing Assistance Corporation is headquartered in Hyannis and provides a wide range of housing services, including first-time homebuyer assistance, classes, and housing support.
We have the world's only flying B-24 Liberator. Over 18,500 B-24s were built during World War II, and this is the only one left flying today.
Up next, vintage World War II bombers land in Barnstable.
I tried Oxy at a couple of parties. I thought I had it under control. I didn't know it'd be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
Well, thank you for tuning in to Cape Media News. If you happen to see large vintage aircraft flying in the skies of Cape Cod this week, you weren't imagining things. The Collings Foundation brought its warbirds to the Barnstable Municipal Airport, and Cape Media News was there to greet them.
History hit the tarmac this week in Hyannis. The Wings of Freedom tour landed for a stopover at the Barnstable Municipal Airport.
World War II is without a doubt the most important historical event in the last 1,000 years, and we're tragically losing a lot of our veterans, and the stories are going away with them. So we have the world's only flying B-24 Liberator, which is behind me. Over 18,500 B-24s were built during World War II, and this is the only one left flying today, along with a B-25 Mitchell, made famous from the Doolittle raid, where they took off of the aircraft carrier to bomb Tokyo shortly after Pearl Harbor, and the most famous fighter of all time, the North American P-51 Mustang.
I still pinch myself every day that I get to do this. I mean, it's every pilot's bucket list wish is to fly a Mustang, and I get to fulfill that for a lot of people, but the great part is I get to do it over and over.
The historic fighter planes arrived courtesy of the Collings Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to preserving living history by providing tours on and off the ground.
The Collings organization is a non-profit, and they have a tremendous collection of airplanes, World War II, World War I, pre-World War I, all flyable. And I flew in on the B-25, sat right behind the pilots. Very nice because nobody was shooting at you.
If somebody wants to go up in this airplane, they're going to fly it, because we do these flights as flight instruction. It's really rewarding to fly a World War II veteran who's not flown a P-51 Mustang in 70 years, or somebody who just always dreamed of it. A lot of veterans want to do it, but we find that there's a lot of children and grandchildren of veterans that still want to come out and fly in these airplanes. They want to experience what their father or their grandfather experienced.
This is a way to preserve that history so the younger generations can come out and learn about the sacrifice made during World War II.
As more and more years go by, we don't want to forget about what happened at World War II. And so it's an opportunity for us to welcome these pilots here, to welcome the Collings Foundation here to Barnstable Municipal Airport, and to get our youth interested in aviation to see what a bomber looks like, to look at an aircraft that was flying during World War II, to touch that aircraft, to get in that aircraft. It's really an amazing opportunity that not too many people get in their lifetime.
The Wings of Freedom tour has now taken flight, but don't worry, if you missed your chance to visit these vintage vessels, you can still experience living history by thanking a veteran.
So the sacrifices they made to preserve our freedom today are enormous. Take the time to say thanks to them, shake their hands, and listen to their stories, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't have our freedom today.
For Cape Media News, I'm Gabrielle Rawson.
And that Wings of Freedom tour makes a yearly stop in Barnstable, usually in late September. The Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe and the Steep Superfund Research Program will present a screening of the documentary film The Devil We Know on Tuesday, October 16th at 6 p.m. The screening is co-hosted by the Massachusetts Breast Cancer Coalition, Association to Preserve Cape Cod, and Barnstable Clean Water Coalition. You can see the film at the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe Community and Government Center, located at 483 Great Neck Road South in Mashpee. The film tells the story of a group of citizens in West Virginia as they take on a powerful corporation following the discovery that it had knowingly dumped a class of soft toxic chemicals called PFAs into the drinking water supply. Again, that film will be shown Tuesday, October 16th at 6 p.m. at Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe headquarters. That's a wrap for this week's edition of Cape Media News. Join us next week as we learn more about sharks on Cape Cod, get insight on Cape Air's new service to New York, and so much more. Stay up to date with us on Facebook and Instagram, and of course online at capemedia.org. This is Cape Media News. I'm Sarah Coleman.